Hey, welcome to the Popcorn Junkies. We have Madalushka who's joined us for this.
Hello.
And we are reviewing The Batman. And this is obviously the new film starring Robert Pattinson. Like you say, Mum, why is it Pattinson and not Patterson? Zoë Kravitz is in there. Jeffrey Wright is in there. Colin Farrell. Paul Dano is in there. Just to give you some context in terms of the director, I didn't know this. I've only just discovered this, Maddie. But Matt Reeves directed Cloverfield. The first of those.
First one.
Yeah. He also did the remake of Let the Right One In, called Let Me In. He did the American remake of that.
That makes sense.
And he did Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes, which is probably where he met Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis did all the CGI for that.
Yeah.
So that's who directed it. Going into The Batman, what were your worries, fears and hopes? Because for me, Batman's a bit camp and a bit one-dimensional sometimes.
Yeah, no, I've never been a Batman fan just because I always felt like he was just too stiff and like I knew he was troubled, but I didn't even feel like we were seeing enough emotional trouble. Yeah, it was just kind of, he was just stiff and like dead. So I've never been like a massive fan of Batman himself. Obviously I loved Dark Knight Rises with Heath Ledger, but that was mostly because of Heath Ledger. But apart from that, like, I've never been a big fan. The only reason I was so excited for this one is just because I thought, you know, Robert would be such a good casting and he would maybe bring
a new level
an extra layer.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised by the casting. What about you, Mum? Have you been a Batman fan over the years?
Well, I'm more a fan of, depends on who plays Batman, but I knew I'd like this guy.
Yeah.
I like him and everything. But I like the mise en scène very much. The fact that it's always raining.
What's
always
mise
black.
en scène, just to explain for people?
It's sort of New York.
The set design.
Gotham City.
And the rain in the dark. I mean, I don't think they showed you any daylight at all.
No, they didn't.
And when they did, it was like grey.
Which was wonderful.
Well, I thought Christian Bale made quite a good sort of fist of it when he was in it.
He did do
well. But I'm like you, Maddie. I find Batman, the risk with Batman is he is a bit one-dimensional. We know he's got the conflict over his parents being killed. He's an orphan. He's a wealthy orphan. All of that kind of stuff. I think I was coming into this thinking, okay, we've had Joker, and this is going to sort of, DC and Warner Brothers are going to take this down that route of going dark. And I think they kind of succeeded in some areas.
Yeah. No, but like I've always really wanted to love the Batman films because it is everything that I would like. Like it's dark and gloomy. You know, it's depressing. Not light. Yeah, it's depressing. And that's why I've always wanted to like it. But I just didn't feel like, and I know Batman's such a hard part to play because obviously you're in a stiff outfit. You can't see much of your face like to express. And so I can understand the difficulty of playing the part. For me personally, there was just never enough to his character. But yeah, like Batman is something those films are always something I've wanted to like. Yeah. It is my type of film.
And I think you kind of preemptively went there, Mum. I think Gotham City is almost a huge character within all the Batman films. It's critical that they get that right. Yeah. And you're right, this film is almost entirely shot at night or at twilight. Yeah. And there was that nice touch right at the beginning, I don't know if you noticed, when Andy Serkis, who plays, Alfred, was showing him the accounts or something, and he put the glasses on because of the light. So this idea that he roams at night and sort of sleeps at day.
There's the breaking dawn and the dawn. What do you don't call it dawn at night?
Sunset.
Dusk. Yeah, and almost vampiric when you think about it.
Absolutely. Well, the bat. Absolutely. Yeah. So I was kind of won over. Were you won over quickly by Pattinson? Did you think, I'm comfortable hands here?
No, same. Yeah. I love him, and I haven't. Well, apart from Twilight, I haven't not liked him in something.
I loved him with his sidekick, Jerry.
Well, Jeffrey Wright plays his sidekick. I mean, I was a bit surprised how much of a detective story it was.
Yes.
But if you think about the original comics, they were called detective comics, and they had Batman in them. So
Batman's always been on more like he's more of like a
detective.
It's more on the detective side.
Yeah, you're right.
There's slightly too much of that for me, which is a strange thing to say because I like detective stuff, as you know, sometimes. But there was very slightly, especially in the middle section where I felt it more.
Yes.
I thought there was very slightly too much of that.
Yeah. I like the way in which they situated a lot of our villains in this kind of underground nightclub. I thought it felt very contemporary, whereas sometimes these films can do a really stereotypical sense of a nightclub.
I actually really liked the whole nightclub thing and all just the like creepy, gross men.
Exactly. And so of course the concept of the film is that, you know, the higher echelons of Gotham City, all the kind of ruling classes, the head of the police, the district attorney, they're all corrupt, they're all in this club, they're all kind of connected, and there's basically a racket going on with drugs. I can't remember what they call the drugs. Drops. And so really it's about the fact that there's corruption that runs through the running of Gotham City, and that's where the Riddler comes in. And so let's talk about the Riddler. I mean, Paul Dano playing the Riddler. I mean, I thought they really successfully, that first death was hideous.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
So was the second one with the rats. Like, it was,
That was
really horrible.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I personally, I just love the Joker so much. So when I hear that a Batman film is like the villain's not going to be the Joker, I'm a bit like,
yeah, it's a tough
I love
sell.
the Joker.
Yeah.
It is a bit. Yeah, I miss the Joker in a way.
Yeah, and I've liked the Riddler as a villain, but I haven't seen it played this well until now.
No.
And now he's like, I thought Paul Dano brought like a whole new.
He did.
They held him back as well, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they did.
And when the film was sort of maybe dipping a bit, they gave him full force.
Well, I thought they distributed him really well across the
did.
film. So,
They did.
albeit that he's the thing that's instigating the investigation.
Yeah.
Who's done this? Who's done that? There are two sort of narratives, though, aren't there? Because Batman sort of hooks up with Catwoman, and Catwoman is missing a friend, and she's trying to locate her friend, and she has a whole narrative about where she comes from and who her father and parents are and all that kind of stuff. And it's sort of, if you think about it, both Catwoman and Batman are both orphans. They're both hunting for, in a sense, the same thing, and they're kind of brought together in the tragedy of not knowing who or what their parents are in
the
different
only
ways.
difference of a consonant between them.
The only difference of a consonant, yes, absolutely. So you had Riddler, Paul Dano. I thought he really reminded me, I don't know if you remember, you won't remember, Maddie, but in the 70s there used to be a Batman series on TV, and the Riddler was this mad green guy in a green suit, like Jim Carrey, and he would do that, hey diddly dee, and then he'd give you these questions, and I thought it did a good job of keeping those sort of cryptic clues in the cards. Did you think that worked?
I loved all the riddles and stuff. Yeah. I liked how realistic this film is. I feel like some superhero films are very. I don't know, it's just so unrealistic that the superhero never really takes a hit, and you know, they're always just like invincible and nothing goes wrong. And like we saw even with Batman, like a few things went wrong. Like, you know,
true.
like he would mess up and like he would get pretty beaten up in a fight as well.
Yes.
And I thought the Riddler was a really realistic take on, because he was kind of like a troll, really.
He was,
like
he was sort of
Batman.
incel troll-like
It was just
figure.
way more realistic, and just like I really liked it.
And not a strong villain. But also the thing I really like about the Riddler, as I liked about Phoenix's Joker, you leant over right at the beginning, Maddie, and said, what I love about the villains in Batman films is they're often on the side of right, but they've gone wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you think about what he was trying to reveal, he was knocking off.
Well, he was just trying to expose like bad people, really.
Exactly.
But like I say, it's the same with Joker. That's what I've always loved about the villains in these films, because they're not necessarily just bad people.
Exactly.
Like, they've just gone about it the wrong way or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're a sort of confused, misunderstood
And I love how
type.
Batman doesn't fully distrust them, but he doesn't fully trust them as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like Batman is strictly not on their side or on their side. Like,
Very much agree.
I can tell that there's a part of him.
Well, there's
that's
there's a murky area, isn't there, of vengeance, and he's in the same pool as many of the other villains in this world of vengeance. I mean, the only villain in this, in a sense, who doesn't have any redeeming features is Penguin. But I thought, what did you think of him? What do you think of Colin Farrell? I thought
He's unrecognisable.
Unrecognisable.
So
And
crazy.
To wear all that, whatever you call it,
Aesthetic.
and to still be very
Expressive.
good.
He was really
expressive
good.
or what? Yeah, the car chase
Yeah.
was fantastic.
If I'm honest, I think I could have done with a little bit more of it.
Yeah,
Because I thought he was the most wisecracking one of the lot.
Yeah.
And his little kind of witticisms, and you could have done with a bit more of that bolshy kind of New York style thing.
Yeah, but I quite liked how much we got. Like we didn't get too. I feel like too much of him would have just been like, okay, Penguin.
Yeah, it might
Get
confuse
out of
things.
here. Yeah.
What do you think of there's constantly the overarching inner turmoil that Batman's got about his origin, about how he wants to make the world a better place, and it's, as Catwoman indicates at some point in the film,
You've really got to get over it.
You've got to get over it. It's too big a thing. I mean, sorting Gotham City out is just too big a thing.
It's not gonna happen.
I felt he did a good job of expressing that by almost being inexpressive. Jeffrey Wright, I have to confess, he kept sort of popping up in shot and kind of like, I felt he was always paddling for coherence. Like, what about the moment where they got La and L wrong before?
That was hysterical.
Before, what was it? Pigeon or something?
Storm pigeons. Yes. So
When it was when Penguin said, "Don't you speak Spanish?"
El
El Rato and La Rato.
translated, is this? Are you stupid? I
Yeah.
thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, but that was on purpose.
Yeah.
Did you think it had enough humour in there? Is it not a film for
For a
you?
Batman film,
Yeah.
I wasn't going expecting any humour, to be honest. So when I got little bits of it, it was like nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey Wright was the human.
I thought there were a couple of occasions though where Batman or Robert Pattinson sort of delivered a dead line. Really.
Yes, he's good at that.
Yeah, he really is. Now, in terms of the way it was shot and some of the set pieces, I mean, I have to say, it really.
I really liked the music as well.
Yeah,
music was fantastic.
From the moment it started, I thought, shoot, right, it was stunning.
Beautiful. I mean, the set design, the production design, all of the observation. I mean, I even got that slight thrill when the Batmobile came out. And there was that chase scene.
Yeah, I got excited and there were so many bits, like so many shots of Batman where I was just like, It's like the bit of him walking away from the explosion, and then that, like you were saying, the really cool scene where there's that gunfight, and because it's dark in the room, all you can see is when like the gun flashes.
The strobe of the guns. I thought that was some brilliantly conceived fights.
I also really loved that shot of him with the red flare at the end, like walking up to
Oh yes.
Like,
and they were all sort of following him. I didn't really understand what was happening there when he sort of cut his thing and fell in, and then he was rescuing
No, he cut the electrics, otherwise it would electrocute everybody.
I see.
And then that was a metaphor of like he's now like people see him as a hero.
Cool.
And of course, Paul Dano takes us to full tilt. I mean, you never think that such a sedate-looking guy can access such madness. You rightly said there will be blood. But my God, he took things to a spectacular level.
I know.
I can't work out if that's because he's very ordinary looking.
I think so. No, but when he accesses
one of the big
he's really
castings.
I mean, he could do anything in that moment.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I mean, literally like flood New York.
I felt so unsettled by the Riddler in this, and it was just scary how quickly he would just lose his shit.
And that's the other way he's been quite clever, I think, Paul Dano, because although he's been in a few films himself, and then he's accessed that rage very few times. And so when you do see him go full DEFCON 1, or whatever they call it, it's like, oh my
Don't say DEFCON 1 at the moment.
I never knew what to expect from his character as well. Like every time he was going to speak, or like his character was in the scene, I was like, what? Like what's going to happen?
He looks like your everyday harmless little guy.
Well, exactly, which is what a lot of those sort of trolley types are. And I love that shot of him in the corner cafe, and they go in, and he's made the coffee, and he just looks at the Batman. And what I love is that he feels this kind of brethren connection with Batman, and so you have that sense of he's doing it with him, or he's alongside him, and that makes you think about the dark side in a sense of Robert. I mean, he is a bit like that, isn't he? He's a bit like the dark side, Robert Pattinson, you know.
I mean, I sort of thought there was a moment, or maybe even a full half hour, where I thought, are they leading us towards the fact that he's twins, in fact, that he's a twin?
Oh, right, okay.
And I really felt, I felt that they were taking us somewhere. I don't know.
I mean, what do we think of Zoë Kravitz and the whole romance thing? Did we
I
buy
didn't
that?
like her at all when she started, but then I warmed up.
Oh, really? I really liked her to start with, and I got annoyed that she had to become a bit of a love interest.
Yeah, me too.
Do you know what I mean?
That's kind of inevitable.
I thought it was a bit sort of very soft on women's part. I mean, women were basically told to go over there and wait.
Well, you had a female mayor, or head of the city.
Yeah, no, but she was told to get down and
down. Yeah, true. Well, no, you're right. There were no other women in it.
No other women at all, and even the main woman, which is her, she wasn't allowed to really do anything with that. No. Whereas, and it's interesting now because I don't usually bother to say that, but we have had a lot of films where there's been more equal women fighting and stuff.
I think that might have been purposely. I mean, everything about Gotham City is just awful and horrible, and white privileged men. That's what she
I mean,
said.
if you think of
the
night,
nobody cares unless it's a white privileged man.
And if you think of the nightclub,
I saw it as more of like a choice to make the women more.
Yeah, that's a good point.
A lesser part because it was like emphasising the fact that.
And also, did you two guys get that thing of it being almost like Corleone stuff, like real sort of
gangster?
Yeah.
Well, I thought for me, the whole voiceover and the diary, it was real old-fashioned film noir detective. And I think they even went so far as Jeffrey Wright's voice and Pattinson's voice in the telling. They kind of took it to the place of being a bit of a caricature. It's like it's just another night in the city, and the rain was falling, and the feeling was high. I mean, that kind of thing. And you buy into that. They kind of. I thought they did a really good job of acknowledging the artificiality of the whole thing, which is ridiculous in some sense. But what you said, Maddie, is it was grounded in realism. So you've got that gritty kind of authenticity to all of it.
No, that's very well put.
So finally, do you think, as a film, it's gonna, there's a hope that it's gonna outdo The Dark Knight? Do you think it progresses things in a nice way? Have we got a new incarnation of Batman that will last beyond The Dark Knight, or are we all gonna go, I think I prefer The Dark Knight?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved this film, but for me personally, Dark Knight's always going to be, because of Heath Ledger, because of Heath Ledger, it's always going to be just like such an amazing Batman film. But I do really think that this is like the start of these films actually becoming something more than just the Batman film.
Well, you see, for me, I came out of it thinking, I hope to God they do a Joker of the Riddler. because I think his character has all that kind of contradiction, and you know, he's quite close in proximity to Joker, isn't he?
Yeah.
In terms of that sort of.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think my favourite thing about this film was Paul Dano and the Riddler, but I don't know. I feel like it really didn't help how long this film was, because it got to a point where it's like, I don't really care when something happening.
I felt
it was just that tad bit way too long. But
about half an hour too long.
And they brought him in at that point, didn't they, Paul Dano? So suddenly my reservations went out of the window because I was so.
It was just I felt like the length of it kind of has taken me away from maybe how good the film was. But
I felt that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are excited about it, and I think everyone will agree that Robert Pattinson's a really good start.
I think he did
Batman.
a good job.
And Paul Dano has done a good job.
I mean, I think you're right.
And then I won't spoil it, but there's a big excitement at the end, because obviously there's another character that they show at the very end. But I definitely feel more that this film's going to get people excited for more Batman films with them to come.
It certainly hasn't waned. It's no pun intended. It's it's still got life in it yet, in a sense. I have to say,
it was really good. I still
really
think that it's going to do really well.
I have to say, it was another reminder though that for me, you know, the best element of a Batman film is invariably the villain. You know, isn't it funny how all the interest revolves around the villains? And I think you're absolutely right about the length, and you're right about how they brought Paul Dano in towards the end, because it's that age-old thing of not revealing the monster too soon. And in a sense, he was the ordinary but extraordinary monster. And once you got that pivotal scene, you know, when they face up, you kind of, it necessarily depletes, because you hit this absolute peak moment.
I love the way they must have sort of wheeled him on and said, right, Paul, go.
Go. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's sum it up and give it our scores. Maddie, do you want to give us yours?
Okay, so I was really excited about seeing this film just because I'm a big Robert Pattinson fan. And I've been really excited to see a really good Batman film and finally really like one, because I've always really wanted to like the films. Just something's kind of stopped me from liking them as much. But and I really enjoyed the film. I was fully invested into it, and I thought to be fair, I thought all the performances were really good in it. I couldn't think of a bad performance.
John Turturro was very good, though you thought he waned a bit.
Went over the top. They gave him too long on the screen, I think.
But I'm not gonna lie, Paul Dano was just the big thing. His character had so many layers, and he was just so unsettling, and he just I don't know, he just really captured everything. I just thought he was amazing, and I loved the music, and I loved the way it was shot. I loved that extra layer that I feel Robert brought to it, and we saw a lot more actual emotion, even though it was still quite a dead stiff, you know, he still brought something to it extra, and it was just, I really enjoyed it. It was just that bit too long for me. When you're just okay, you can end now. But I really enjoyed it, so I think I would give it, out of 100, maybe 80.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just because
it was too long.
It's too long.
Okay, well, I thought Robert Pattinson, the whole character of Batman is inexpressive, emotionally dead, but also emotionally troubled, and it's a really hard contradiction to perform. Emotionally dead and emotionally troubled, because he's dead because he's troubled, and he's troubled because he's emotionally dead. So you've got that strange thing, and a lot of it has happened to be done with a jaw and just the eyes through a mask. And
also I really liked how they showed the actual black makeup on his face, because all the other ones, they'll literally go from being in their suit to just
absolutely
plain face. It was really nice to see to show all Batman.
It's a jaw to die for, isn't it?
It's a what?
A jaw.
A jaw to die for, absolutely.
Oh yeah, he has a perfect jaw.
I thought there were lots of set pieces that I really liked. I loved the sort of gesture to the Joker with the first fight scene, if you like, on the subway with all the guys dressed as Jokers. You know, that was kind of twisted and weird. I thought there was a ruggedness to the edges of it. It's weird. As it went along, it became sort of more conventionally a DC movie. Whereas I think it started
off way better.
It started off much more Joker-esque in a sort of more, I don't know, a more raw and ragged sort of way. And then it became more and more streamlined as it needed to kind of resolve the story. Thus,
true.
Catwoman.
Happens with most
it does, doesn't it? So, you know, I got a bit frustrated with the obvious romance. I'm just not interested in any of that shit. I thought Jeffrey Wright was funny, but at times I just he just kept popping up and being a bit sort of
a bit too clueless.
You sort of think, how can he become a detective? And his voice was always like, what are we doing? And he was always kind of, you know, gravelly. I really like John Turturro. I like the seedy underworld. I like the way in which Penguin was set up, because I think he's going to sort of feature in future films. Paul Dano is absolutely brilliant, but I think even he kind of peaked, and once they'd hit that peak, it kind of diminished. It was
Do you
half.
think? I thought he kept that up.
Oh no! He kept it up right to the end, but then for the finale.
Yeah, they had to finish it.
Yeah. And there was that final shot with the extra character at the end. I thought that worked nicely. But
that got me excited.
yeah, I mean, for me, he's the richest thing in it, and that villain,
yeah,
and all of the queries and questions and the deaths. What I liked was they were really sort of nasty, thumbs and rats, and
it was gory,
and heads blowing up and all that kind of stuff. You know,
Oh yeah, that whole scene with the
That scene was great.
Explosive around his neck.
Yeah.
This is arrestable.
and it very much reminded me of moments with Heath Ledger where you just thought, what won't this guy do?
Yeah,
This is
the extent they go
exactly.
to.
Oh, Sarsgaard, wasn't it?
Sarsgaard, yeah. So I really enjoyed it. Like you, Maddie, I thought it was too long. I'd probably give it 87 out of 100. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
All the things that these two have said, I feel. I love the music, love the look of it. Paul Dano, the high standing out moment, but I loved Pattinson too. And it just pulled in that there was a middle, the second act as they would call it, pulled a bit.
Yeah.
And but other than that, I loved it. I would give it 76.
Oh right, okay, the lowest.
Yeah, in fact, yes.
I'm actually changed mine to 85.
85. Okay, retro.
Yeah,
What did I say?
I
What did I give it?
87.
Oh, 87. That's a curious number.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, guys. The Batman. It's out. We've kind of avoided some major
Definitely
spoilers.
go and see it.
Definitely go and see it.
And tell us what you think.
Yeah, it's epic cinema.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.